Hi, my name is Louise Fazackerley. I'm a poet based in Wigan. I've published 2 poetry collections with Verve Poetry Press and a spoken word album with Nymphs and Bugs. And I've been like a full-time poet for about 6 years and then been writing for much longer. So today we are doing a bit of a creative writing workshop. So it's not just poetry, it can be any sort of form of writing that you want to do. So it could be stories, it could be memoir, it could be very truthful and about you, or it could be quite fictional and escape into new characters and new worlds. You will need a pen or a pencil or whatever you like to write with and some paper, or if you prefer on your computer, get your computer ready, whatever you like to do to write. And if you're new to writing, you might want to experiment with different things to write with, because I find that I like to write on big A4 paper first, and then when I come to editing, I put it on my computer. Some people like to walk around with little tiny notebooks, to get their ideas in, but I find I might take a tiny notebook just because it's portable, but when it comes to actually writing, that's just too small for me. But by experimenting, you'll work out whatever's right for you. And actually, if you're an experienced writer, it's still worth doing this every so often because you might surprise yourself. Okay, now before we begin writing, we're going to do a warm-up exercise. And the reason we're doing this is if you were playing a sport, you wouldn't just get there and start running. You'd warm your body up, wouldn't you? If you were playing an instrument, you'd start playing scales, this is my violin, or the piano, before you did the real act. And what happens sometimes with writers is we want to write, we've set some time aside to write, we don't know what to write about. It's just a bit daunting. So this warm-up exercise is about putting pen to paper, warming up your creative juices, getting your words flowing through your pen or, you're typing or whatever. And that's the purpose of it. So what I would like you to do is I'm going to ask you to write for 2 minutes. If you get stuck and you're not sure what to write, have a little think. Or you could just keep on writing. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then something will appear at the other end of your pen. And what we're going to write about is everything I know about the colour blue. Okay, so we're going to write everything I know about the colour blue, and it can come out however you wish, like a story, like notes, like just kind of factual information. Just see where it takes you. Okay. So there's no chance to ask questions because I'm just doing a video, but I'll assume, just don't worry too much, you can't get it wrong. No such thing as a wrong thing in creative writing. So you've got 2 minutes to write on everything I know about the colour blue. Your 2 minutes starts now. Pause the video. Okay, so I'll assume the 2 minutes have gone. You might have a look at your work, you might like it, you might be surprised, you might think, well, a load of drivel, don't worry, it was just a warm-up, it's fine. You might have something you could work into a good piece later on. And if you want to do this for yourself in future, you can just change the colour, because obviously colours have different connotations. And then when we think about moods, when we think about blue, we might think about sadness, or we might think about skies, we might think about the sea. If you try another colour like red, that's got different connotations, maybe anger, maybe love. So we get to be able to access our feelings as well as objects that we associate with those colours. Okay, let's move forward now to the main writing task. So our inspiration today is a book called Passerine by Kirsten Luckins, and it's out with Bad Betty Press. That's a bit, so if you like the start of this book, just go and buy it. It'd be nice, if you've got the cash. The writer does 2 things that I find quite interesting that I think we could have a go at. So one of the things she does is she sets it out like a bit like a diary entry or a letter. So it starts with Dear Sarah. So in this book, Kirsten is writing to a friend of hers who passed away. And so she's writing these letters that will never get sent, but she's writing them to this friend. So it's quite interesting how she does that. So what I'd like you to do first of all is maybe spend just a minute or so making some notes about who you would like to write to. So you might want to write to maybe a friend who you've not spoken to for a while, or a family member. You might want to write to someone who's passed away. You might want to write to yourself or your future self. Or you might want to write to someone fictional. It might be the start of a new story and you're going to go into this kind of made up land in your head. So just spend a minute now making some notes of the people who you might like to write to. And pause the video now for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you've got some ideas about who you might like to write to. Now, the first thing I want you to do is to write about the sky. So what am I going on about? Don't get excited and start writing now. I'm still explaining. I'll just have a little look at my sheet because I want to give you an example from Kirsten's work about how she attacks this task. Okay, so each of Kirsten's letters begins, Dear Sarah, then the date, 9th of October, and then every single letter begins by looking up at the sky and describing the clouds. Here are two examples. The first one, Dear Sarah, 9th of October, the clouds today are the blue black of eye bags. The trees blaze against them, rebels to a sapling. Okay, so I think that's quite fun because she's looking at the clouds and she's trying to describe them in an interesting way. And then the trees get a look in, don't they? And they become rebels, which is quite interesting. Another one she wrote like this. Dear Sarah, 20th of October, if only I could fly, I could grab a handful of those clouds to knit a baby's blanket. If only I could knit. Okay. So I like that one because I thought there was a bit of humour in it. She's like, yeah, oh, I would make a baby's blanket. I can't knit. It's a bit tricky. So you can have humour in it if you so wish. So I'm going back to my sheet. Task one now. Task one is, I'd like you to write something using the same sort of structure. You thought about who you might like to write about, and I'd like you to describe the sky. So it's dear, whoever you're writing about, maybe the date, and you start by describing the sky, looking up at it and having a think, how could you describe it? Then write whatever you like, it's up to you. I've got some questions which might help you. You might want to talk about what you've been up to or what your fictional character's been up to. You might want to tell the person what you're thinking about. You might want to talk about your worries and your concerns. What are the nice things happening around you? What memories have you shared together, or what are you looking forwards to? Now, if it feels like I've given you a lot of information there, just pause it and rewind it and make some notes, because these questions might help you in drafting your letter or your diary writing. I'd like you to spend about 10 minutes writing. I want you to write without stopping. Don't want you to worry about, I mean, you can stop to think, do you know what I mean? But don't get too excited about that. Just try and let it flow. Don't worry about your spelling or your handwriting. Don't worry about getting it wrong. I'm just experimenting now. This might not be your life's work, or it might be. Do you know what I mean? Just have some fun. You can't get it wrong. Okay, so your 10 minutes to write, dear somebody, describe the sky, whatever else you want, begins now. Pause the video for 10 minutes. Okay. So I'll assume 10 minutes has gone. Have a read what you've got. Now is the time to turn on your editor. So the first bit is like the creative splurge, where you write as much as you can. The second bit, you turn on your editor, you look at what you've got, and then you start to pick up, oh, I like that bit. Oh, that bit's not so good. I'm just going to put a line through that and change that. And then I often think, More of this, less of that. So the things that I liked, I think I'll try and write a bit more like that. And the things I didn't like, I thought, well, I don't want to go down that route. I'm going to go down this route. Okay, so that was your first task. Well done. You've done 2 writing tasks now. You've done your warm-up, haven't you? You've done your task 1. I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge. The challenge is to take it outside. Okay, so if you can now, get outside. Sit on a bench. If you're struggling to get outside, your own doorstep will do. But get somewhere where you can see some sky. If it's raining, take a brolly. And try the same exercise again in a different location. So not in your front room or your bedroom or wherever you are right now. Get out into nature. Sit on a bench at the park and try this exercise again and see how it changes. So task 2, should we move on to task 2? So I've got to give you a challenge, have another go at that outside. Task 2 is to write a letter inspired by what you see in your new place. Okay, so when you go to your new place, you might be thinking, what's happening with nature? What's happening with the birds and growing things? Who is walking past? What do you imagine their lives are like? So task 2, you can carry on with dear friend, or you can just abandon that structure. You might be like, it's not for me. I want to write about place. I want to write about the sky, about nature, about the birds and growing things, about who is walking past, about how you imagine their lives to be. Do you have any memories of this place? So this task is all about being somewhere and being like totally mindful and be like, I'm in the moment now. What is happening? How does the wind feel? How does the rain feel? How does the sun feel? How is it to be me in this place? And just write it down because your voice is important. Okay, so like you have to write this down. Pause me if you've got me on a phone. That's ideal, isn't it? You can take me with you. Okay, so I want you to do 10 minutes writing inspired by being outside. And your 10 minutes starts now. Pause me. Okay, so you've done your 3rd writing task. That's plenty. That's plenty for an hour, really. What you're going to do next. Okay, so my advice would be, if you're quite new to writing, try and write quite often. Doesn't have to be every day. But sometimes people wait for the muse to take them. They wait for an idea to come. And in my experience, that's not that useful because you don't tend to write as much. And actually, the more you do, the better you will get. That's like the truth. But you might want to share your writing. So if you ended up writing poems, it would be good for you to look for writeoutloud.net on the internet because they're a great place to start to share your work online and meet some poetry friends, to find the gig guide, and so you can find out where live poetry events are in your area, so you can go along to your local pub and watch the first time if you want, and then maybe get up and read. So that would be a good thing if you're a poet. If you are writing other sorts of things, if you're an older person, have a look at U3A. U3A do creative writing groups in Preston and surrounding areas. So have a look, you might be able to join a U3A writing group. If you're younger than that, I'd have a look at the National Association of Writers and Groups. They're worth a look to see where the local writing groups are in your area. And or you could do what I did. I just set one up because I was like 30 and I thought, do you know what? I want to meet other people my age who are trying to write, not just like retired people or children. You know, I wanted to meet someone my own age. So I just set up my own group. Well, easy. So you could have a go at that. Okay. So I think that's everything for today. I hope you have enjoyed writing with me. I would love to be able to see your work. If you wanted to post it on Twitter or Instagram and put a hashtag on. I don't know what hashtag is. It'll come on the video, but it'll come up here or down there in a minute. And have fun with your writing, and feel free to contact me on Twitter to say, I saw you, I enjoyed watching your video, and this is what I've written. I love to get that feedback. Okay, bye.